Hello, everybody. Juliana Page here, and I'm going to dive right in today. So the topic is about tapping into the power of belief. I am somebody that really had to learn this out of necessity, and it's something that even when you learn it, you've got to apply it consistently because your mind, untamed, is prone to wander, right? Your mind is going to grow weeds. Your mind can be one of your greatest assets or your greatest enemy, but it requires training. And I want to dive into this today because a lot of times we hear about hard work and hustle and just the grind, right? Like we hear about this over and over and over. But I also want to say to that, there's a lot of people that work really hard and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. Let that sink in. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, if you look within your own sphere of influence, within your own realm of experience, you could see people that you acknowledged worked really, really hard. But what at the end of the day do they have to show for it? Think about that. Okay, so I want to dive into this a little bit. Since I go to the word a lot, I'm going to take you there. One of the greatest verses and why I knew that I needed spiritual realigning was this verse right here. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. That's Mark 9:23. Another way to say it, all things are possible for one who believes. Okay. Let me see. Many are called, few are chosen. So for example, many could have the potential, the opportunity, the exposure, but few actually put the magic of believing, let's say, into practice. But let him, this is James 1:6, but let him ask in faith without doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave in the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. So basically, when you have doubt, when you have fear, when you have unbelief, you're easily tossed as you go through life. Hebrews 11:6, and without faith, belief, right? It is impossible to please him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Dun, dun, dun. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. I love this one. This one is Hebrews 11:1. This one is so important because conviction speaks to that deep inner knowing. It's not, there's no questioning anymore. There's no fear anymore. There's just this strong assurance on the inside of your core. You don't even need anybody to give you advice, information, affirmation. You've got this. You've got that inner knowing in you. Let me see. Hebrews is a great chapter for this if you want to work on your belief. Hebrews 3:19. So we see that they were unable to enter because of unbelief. So there's a lot of things, especially in the kingdom, that you're unable to receive because of unbelief. It's literally a block or a wall between you and your desire or your promise. And in the world, without belief, you don't have the key essentially to unlock the doors of influence and success that you want to attain. Let me see if there's any others. There was one more that I wanted to catch, but it might not be listed here. But there's basically a prayer, Lord, help me with my unbelief. So you can acknowledge that you have unbelief. And you can ask God for help with that too. Another one, Matthew 13:58. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So that might even let you know too, if you are a business owner, if you're an influencer of some kind, you are going to need to help people focus on their belief or go to places where people have belief so that you don't have that wall to break through. So I'm going to take you through a few things to understand the power of belief, and then also a practice to help you start activating belief. I always enforce practical wisdom. It's something that, you know, you can read all of the books in the world and you can be exposed to some really great teaching, but if you don't make it practical for you, might as well not even had exposure to it. Okay, so again, go back to Matthew 9:23. If you can believe, all things are possible to those who believe. So, something about me, I have always had a curious nature. Like, I've been curious about life, particularly because I saw a lot of interesting and inconsistent things growing up. What drives people? What motivates people? What causes some people to really overcome some really interesting circumstances, and what causes some people to be overcome by those circumstances? What causes some people to rise and what causes other people to fall, right? Like, what causes some people to be like uber resourceful and other people just to squander their resource, right? Like, these were questions, and I remember thinking these as early as 9 or 10. And that can be really overwhelming. So at any rate, at 9 or 10, I had this insatiable yearning to seek explanations and answers and philosophers and teachings of great masters and people that were known for that, right? So quotes were an obsession for me. People that had one-liners that were like, yes, like they get me, right? They became mentors. And so that led me into journalism, that led me into film production, that led me into coaching, it led me into really understanding the power of communication, the power of storytelling, the power of narrative, particularly changing and switching and shifting and pivoting and aligning your narrative, right? So that you can really have this life that you know, you've got that conviction that you are put on this earth to live, right? Okay, so because of that though, I also was exposed to many thought leaders, for lack of a better word, whether that's in the realm of religion, whether that's in the realm of like New Age and yoga, whether that's in the realm of unity, whether that's in the realm of civil rights leaders, whatever it is, right? All of these folks had this understanding of the science of thought. Okay, so they understood that what you think about, there's a vibration to that, there's an electricity to that, there is a energy to that, and then that immediately affects how you feel and what you emote. So literally the energy that you start putting into motion. And the more you keep thinking and literally replaying something, which is using your imagination, right? In your mind is where you play through all these movies, and what you're thinking about consistently or strongly ongoing, right, becomes a fixed substance, if you will. Like, you're so focused and fixed on it, you feel certain about it and you expect it. So there's a saying, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, right? So what you keep thinking on and focusing on, you're going to see, basically. Like, so there's a manifestation element to your thought life, whether that is for good or not so good, right? So a lot of things that I learned in my journey of communication, in my journey of development, my necessity to get knowledge around this was the understanding of applying sincere thought. So in other words, thinking about what you're thinking about, to clear writing, because sometimes you don't know what you're thinking about until you put it on paper, and then to simple language, simple communication. So for example, if I have sincere thinking, then I can process and reflect without judgment, without shame, without condemnation, because that usually shuts down your thoughts. So when you're curious, that's why I opened with that. I was curious about information. So I was opening to whoever maybe the teacher would be to process it and sift through it. That's sincere thinking. You process and you sift through these different thoughts, these different philosophies, these different perspectives, okay? That requires intention and sincere thinking. Then from there, you can turn that into clear writing. So in school, you would have a teaching, and then you would take down your takeaways, and that would become your notes. And I became a really good note taker. Through all my education, I became a really good note taker, right? And from that, right, through sincere thinking, clear writing, Then you can get simple language. You can get simple language just like there is power in belief. You can tap into the power of belief. That's simplifying thought leaders and all of their knowledge and the science of thought and how complicated that probably could be, to the simplicity of just saying you can tap into the power of belief that will radically change your life. Simple language, right? But there's a process to that, because the process is so important, because you can, again, be exposed to something, but unless you know it and own it for yourself, you can't really apply it in your own life, okay? So, summary is believe you can do a thing and you can do it. Believe that you can have it and you have it. Hear me? Believe you can do a thing and you can do it. Believe that you can have it and you have it. This I've applied in my life multiple times, from things like getting in to, well, I would say things like joining athletic teams, things like getting cars, and I know that sounds silly, things like going to certain schools, things like moving to certain places in the country, things like launching certain businesses, things like getting certain positions. I've used it. Things like getting connected to the right resources and knowledge and information, that next thing that I needed, that I didn't have, or that I was missing. So believe that you can do a thing and you can do it. It's basically, if you believe it, you will start finding evidence of how you do it, essentially. And you'll be a magnet for that too. And then believe that you can have it and you can have it. And you start seeing evidence of that also. But the same is true for the opposite. And that's why this is so crucial to get. You could be working your off, right? But you're missing belief. And you could say, but I'm trying and I'm thinking and I'm right? Great. And there's honor and there's respect all over that. However, if you still don't have belief, and ultimately you're in fear or scarcity thinking or poverty thinking or limitation and lack in some kind of way, that's what's still a stronghold, and that's what you need to break, because you are not operating with the power of belief in your life. You are not tapping into belief. You are tapping into unbelief. Okay. Moving on. So this is really about thought power, okay? Because belief is really a string of thoughts that you keep thinking over and over, okay? As I mentioned, necessity is what forced me personally to practice these things, because when I started thinking about what I was thinking about, I started to recognize that I thought a lot of crappy thoughts, and I thought thoughts that were not going to bring me to the desires that I had. It was going to bring me to the opposite. So I had to start practicing and exposing myself to influence, to places, to new knowledge, to new information, to new systems, to new structures that I didn't have in my life, so that could become something that I had a strong belief around. That could become something that built up and activated my faith. The more I was exposed to it, the more I kept focusing on it, the more I kept seeing it, the more I kept hearing it, my belief became a conviction. And once it's a conviction, that fear can't even hit you. Can't even touch you, okay? So necessity forced me to do it, but I'm bringing that up because it's going to require diligent, intentional thinking and processing. This does not just happen, okay? So you basically have to stick to it until you can actually experience it, okay? So the thought with that would be basically, however long it takes, I'm going to show up until it happens, right? However long it takes, I'm going to make sure it happens. All right. Now, this was something that got me big time. I know in the very beginning when I started thinking about what I was thinking about, here it is. Your very life is your thinking and the result of your thinking processes. Your very life is your thinking and the result of your thinking processes. How you present yourself to the world, where you live, what's in your home, what you drive, the job you drive to, the people you're connected to. Your very life is your thinking and the result of your thinking processes. Example, I have lived in many places, but I've lived in Austin, Texas for, man, it'll be close to 11 years, which is wild. However, that is even an example of my life being my thinking and the result of my thinking processes. For example, when I first moved to Austin, I was into yoga and DJing and doing some life coaching and kind of like more hippie vibe, more like free spirit vibe, like send me to Jamaica, man, right? Like I was very like chill, not a care in the world, right? Then there's another season and I'm in corporate America and I'm like results and hard work and, you know, high performance teams and all this stuff, right? And solution focused and yeah. Then I moved into nonprofit and diversity and social justice and equity and scalability and grant management and and then I moved back into coaching and thought leadership and more spirit-led living because it was just interesting how my thinking though was creating these things. So my life and my thinking, when I had moved to Austin after being professionally certified and finishing a grad school program, I just wanted to have a life, right? Like I just wanted to have a life that I could live. And that was very difficult to do in California. And I was looking for deeper, real connections with people. And I didn't feel like I was experiencing that in California. So my life reflected that. When I first moved here, I was open to finding these people and trying new things. And I had a mix of that in my life. Then I was about the Benjamins, right? Because that's what you should be about. You should build something that's going to make you safe, right? Like you should have a 401k and, you know, chase this corporate ladder. Like you got to have a really great looking resume, right? So that happened, and that was not in alignment with my spirit at all, but there's a lot of great learning there. I didn't even know what alignment with spirit meant at that time. Then I moved into nonprofit, and this was kind of the beginning of my God journey. And there were so many challenges and so many things to work through there. But that's how I saw very intimately the power of my belief and unbelief, right? So just examples, take a look at your own life story and see what your thoughts are creating and what you're processing through. So as I was processing through more hippie stuff, I was seeing that in my life. As I was processing through more corporate stuff, I was seeing that in my life. As I went back into more of the heart service space, I saw that in nonprofit and all the hard work and that happens there, right? And then I got back into alignment and realized that I am meant to be writing and speaking and teaching and educating and coaching, right? Like that was something totally different. And I would have never, like my thinking was not there. So as you go on the journey, be open to the fact that it's probably going to look like nothing that you would have imagined, right? But as you evolve, you start to draw out this potential, okay? So take a look at your life. What have you been thinking about? All right. Another way to say this, what you exhibit outwardly, basically what you demonstrate to the world, you are inwardly. Interesting. Okay. There is a quote too by Shakespeare. I remember reading Shakespeare in high school, and Lord, you need some help to read Shakespeare, okay? But this is pretty self-explanatory. There is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. What? That's powerful. There is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So that explains the science of thought, right? That explains the emotion. We have a thought, and depending on the meaning we attach to it, we start to feel some kind of way, and we act out of that belief. You got to catch this. You act out of belief, whether it's a positive belief, whether it's a negative belief, and it's going to bring you an outcome. So if it's necessity that makes you practice mindset work and belief work, lean in. All right. And then again, whatever a man sows, that also he shall reap. So that is not speaking, not necessarily just to your actions, which is a lot of time when we hear that scripture verse, what we think, like as I'm sowing, like what I'm doing to my neighbor, it's going to be done unto me. That kind of stuff is where we think about it, but it's actually your thought life. As you're sowing, as you're planting thoughts, as you're letting thoughts get rooted in your heart, thoughts like unforgiveness, resentment, bitterness, right? Like there's thoughts connected to those expressions of thought, okay? And whatever you keep thinking about and you keep sowing, you will reap. So if you don't want a harvest of that stuff, you should probably work on your thinking faculties. I am just saying. Okay. So this is a call to not just focus on hard work, because hard work is overrated. And that's like the Industrial Revolution, right? Like hard work was the thing. Hard work is important, but the right intentional aligned work is what I would suggest. What is often overlooked is creative thinking and a firm belief in your ability to execute your ideas. So we're like, hard work, hard work, hard work. If I just 10x this hard work, if I just work. Like that's what we're told. Like push, like we're told that, right? Take massive action. Okay. What about creative thinking and a firm belief in your ability to actually execute your ideas? That would probably eliminate a lot of hard work. That would eliminate a ton of hard work. Could you use that weight being lifted off of you? I think so. So why not slow down for a minute and think about what you're thinking about? You are a gold mine of creative thinking. And all you got to do is start activating belief in your ability to execute your ideas. Nobody has the ideas that you do. Nobody can execute the ideas like you do. Nobody can have creativity flow through you like you do, but you will miss it if you're only doing hard work and pushing. Okay. And lastly, I promised that I would give you an exercise and practical wisdom and a way to put this into practice. So the invitation on today is I invite you to think about where you're headed. With this in mind, your very life is your thinking and the result of your thinking processes. So where is your life headed? What are you going to have more of? Unless you stop it and decide to do something different. And this is what I'm going to tell you. If you do not like where your life is headed, you can practice sustained thought and mental pictures. You can practice using your imagination on purpose. That often is called visualization. Okay? Doesn't take much. You can even use your phone. I recommend keeping your phone on airplane mode and being in a place without distractions and making it a date on your calendar, just like you would for anything else. Stick a date on your calendar for non-negotiable you time. Nobody gets to interrupt you. If it's got to be 3 a.m., it's 3 a.m., but you have to make sure that you start visualizing something, particularly if you've been heading in a really nasty direction that you're not happy with. You probably have to really exert some belief. You got to activate some belief. You've got to really visualize and put in some work and put in some time. There's a sacrifice to this too, right? So you got to make it happen. Set your timer. I recommend for, I say 20 minutes. Sometimes for me, it takes at least 10 to like get in position. Okay. And you can have, I call it soaking music, but music that is usually worship music, but no lyrics, because your mind can just go off into the lyrics. So that's great for sometimes, but like when you need to reinforce belief, that's great. But for just visualizing, I recommend none of that. Think like Pirates of the Caribbean music too, just to give you a sense of where I'm headed with this. But having music like that on, sometimes you can do it without, but I find that stirs emotion for me faster. Set a timer for 20 minutes, leave it alone. It's going to get your attention when you need it to get your attention. And just practice thinking about 3 things or 3 desires. Okay? 1 desire. See it as fully as possible. See yourself winning. See yourself doing the thing. See yourself running the family, having the family that you've never had. See yourself living in that place. Seeing yourself thriving in that business. See yourself leading these people. See yourself writing that book, whatever it is, but see yourself in the fullness of it, as if it is. Because where's that saying? Believe you can do a thing and you can do it. Believe that you can have it and you have it. Believe you can do a thing and you can do it. Believe that you can have it and you have it. Okay, so take the first desire. Believe that you can do a thing and you can do it. See yourself doing the thing. Take another one. Believe that you can have it and you have it. See yourself having it already. What do you think about? What do you feel? How do you carry yourself? How do you present yourself? And then when your 20-minute timer goes off, you act as if. And when you get challenged and what life doesn't look like it and circumstances don't look like it, and they're going to try to tempt you to think negative and dark and scary and unbelief and question, you got to have some declarations. That would be the next thing that I would say to add to this. I back it by the word of God, because the word of God spoken does not return void. So I like putting the word to work for me. So that's what I would recommend to you. But something, again, that can at least stop your mind and get it on the right path. So that would be my recommendation, that you can use your imagination and you can train your imagination to stay focused on where you're headed. That's going to require diligent, intentional work. And it's going to require you to constantly be speaking to yourself too. There's a great way to, again, have sincere thinking going on, write it down, and then be able to articulate it. So that would be all the things that I would say. Like, I know in my quiet time, I read and I let it start coming to me. Then I start writing it down, and then I speak these declarations and I pray these prayers, and I partner, right, with the energy of it, with the belief of it, and I activate my faith. Okay, so that's my encouragement to you today, is if you've been working really, really hard, perhaps it's not a work problem. Perhaps it is a belief problem. And you can tap into the power of belief. And belief can do radical things in your life, for good or for bad. So pay attention to that. How can you activate your belief to work for you? All right. Oh my goodness. Such a good word. I hope this blessed you. If it did, man, copy the link, share it with a friend. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure that you do that as well. And as far as following me, you can find me at Miss Juliana Page over on the IG and Facebook. You can listen in to some Spirit-Filled Real Talk. We do it every Saturday on the Spirit-Filled Real Talk podcast with Juliana. And then also the website is julianapage.com. So I work with people one-on-one. I do some group training and challenges. And I also have a self-paced self-mastery course over there. So go check it out. And until next time, guys, stay blessed. Bye.